Hey, it's Mr. Native Survival. Got a nice little rainstorm that came in today. I figured we would talk about the Flint and Steel Kit. Don't go away. Alright, Flint and Steel Kit. Now this is actually the Long Hunter kit that you can find on our site. It's kind of like the jacked up version of a Flint and Steel Kit. It's a Flint and Steel Kit with a trapping kit inside it as well. So it's like 15 snares in here. Open it up, show you guys what I got in here. I just got some jute twine for a Tinder Bundle. Perfect for days like this where it's pouring out and it's going to be incredibly tough to find a Tinder Bundle in weather like this. So I always like to have a Tinder Bundle with me inside my kit that's, you know, already dry. In my primitive kit, it's birch bark and cattail. And in my my Flint and Steel kit, I usually just throw some jute twine. Gets the job done pretty good. Keep a couple stones in here. This one is a piece of flint, and we actually have flint on our site separate. We also have quartz on our site separate. We have two types of quartz. We have standard quartz and quartzite. The difference is that basically quartzite is quartz that is ground into a powder. So it's quartz powder, and at deep levels in the earth, it's actually reconstituted into a rock again. So it started out as quartz, and it got ground into sand, basically, like quartz sand, and then that sand got superheated and super compressed back into its own stone. And that looks pretty cool. It's very shiny and shimmery because of all those small particles that make up the stone. So it doesn't have the large crystals that a standard quartz would have. So we got both of those on our site too. Quartzite's you know, quite a bit more rare than standard quartz. Okay, and I just have a steel striker. Here's all the snares I keep in here. Now also, in this kit, at the bottom, I have some Charcloth, and right next to it I have some cattail. So again, you know, Charcloth takes an awesome spark. Cattail does too. Usually doesn't take a spark quite as easy as Charcloth, but it definitely takes a spark and keeps going, you know. I have a vid called Cattail, and you can check that out if you want. And I like Cattail because it's renewable. It's a renewable resource in the woods. I can find cattail, and I can throw it in my tin, and then I can char it. Good to go. We'll catch a spark. Good luck trying to find, you know, extra shirts to make Charcloth in the woods. So anyways, this is just my quick little Flint Steel kit. I'll show you how to use it. Alright, so let's talk about stones first real quick. So the first piece I showed you is a piece of flint. Okay, here's another piece of flint. Throw good sparks. Okay, here's a piece of natural quartz. You can see the large grain in there. Throws excellent sparks as well. Okay, now this is quartzite. I'm sure you can see the difference here. It's very finely grained because it's made of powder. This isn't a particularly shiny piece. It's got looks like some iron in it possibly. Right here, dulling it. It's kind of a brown piece. But this is what you're looking for. It's kind of gray. Just throw sparks too. You can see. Okay, now this last stone is called Pyrite. Excuse me. This last stone is called Pyrite. Pyrite sometimes looks very metallic like this, and it fractures in these small little like step fractures. It just kind of like crumbles. Okay, and it wasn't cut this way in this cube. This is actually how the crystals, the structure grows. Okay, very interesting stuff. Now this will also throw a spark, even though the hardness is between 6 and 6.5. So that's all that's needed to strike a spark off of steel, high carbon steel, which is usually about between 6 and 6.5 is the hardness that you need from there and up, and it will cleave the metal off. See if I can throw a spark off this for you. See that? Couple off there. These edges are a little dull for it, but it can still throw sparks. Then let's have a large piece of quartz. It's pretty rounded. So if I wanted to use this to throw sparks, I would have to either rough up one of the edges or break it in half or break off a piece, a corner, because then it becomes very sharp. But right now it's very kind of rounded off and soft. So I just like to feel around. There's a little sharpness there. There's some sharpness right here. Right here. But I can throw a spark off that. See that? Huge sparks. Okay, so that's just a quick rundown of a couple stones that I like to use. You know, quartz, quartzite, pyrite, and flint. Alright, so let's talk about the actual striking of the stone. There's a little bit of a technique there. Basically, you want to find the edge that you want to use. And when you come down with your steel, you don't want to come down with an angle that's not perpendicular. Okay, because you're going to beat up your edge. You're going to smash off the edge. And you tend to only hit one part of the steel. You want to try to be perpendicular if you can to the edge. And when you strike down, barely skim the edge the whole distance. Okay? And that's going to allow the most steel to come off, and therefore more sparks. And it also doesn't beat your edge up quite as bad either, because you're not digging in as much. I actually miss 3 or 4 times before I actually hit, because I'm just moving a little bit closer, so I just barely nick it. Okay? Now, you don't want to use your wrist, because if you do that, your wrist just changes the angle. We don't want the angle to change. So you want to use your elbow when you're striking. Okay, now it changes as well. See the angle changing? But it's not as drastic, okay? So what I like to use is use part of my elbow right as I hit it to give it a little more snap. And I use my shoulder for the rest, because my shoulder can just go up and down like this. So I usually go like this, and then right at the end I just kind of give it a little snap with my elbow, just a tiny bit. Okay, and you might see me rotate my wrist back a little bit when I do that. So that way when it comes forward, it's still straight as it hits. See that? So I just miss a few times and get a little closer until I know I'm there. And then I can just keep banging out sparks all day. Alright, so the next concept that you want to understand is that there's 2 types, 2 styles of organizing, if you will, or holding your charcloth or your charred material that you intend to spark. You can either put it on top of your stone. This is the shelf style, or you can put it on the let me see here, let me grab something for you. It's the top of my tin. You can put it on the top of your tin or rock or what have you. Okay, and then you would shower sparks down onto it. So I'd strike it and my sparks would fly down. This is the shower technique. So there's the shelf technique where you put the charcloth or charred material on top of your stone, and you strike and you try to have it explode right into the material here, or you lay it down and you hit your stone with your steel and you try to throw sparks down onto it. It's also another technique of how you strike, not just where you put your cloth, and that is keeping your steel still and making your stone the variable. So basically this doesn't move, and I just hit my stone like this. Hit my steel like this with my stone. A lot of guys do that for the shower technique. Okay? So I do it like this. They try to get the sparks to land on their charred material that way. So there's two ways to go about it. Usually on the shelf technique, the steel is the variable and the stone is the constant. It does not move. You just move the stone, the steel onto the stone instead of vice versa. And the shower technique can be either, but most guys keep the opposite. They keep the steel static or still, and they use the as the constant, and they use the stone as the variable, and that moves. Okay. A lot of times they do that when they're using their knives. So if you're using your knife as your steel, you'd hold it down, you'd strike it like this for the shower technique, throw sparks off of it. Okay, make sense? Okay, now, so actually vice versa would be the opposite, where if you want to use your knife as your variable and your stone as your constant, say like in the shelf technique, excuse me, you would hold your knife away from your blade, you would keep your fingers obviously off of your edge. You have a very firm grasp on it. Then you would strike down. Let me get my cloth off of there so I don't actually ignite it. So you'd strike down onto the stone like this. Okay? So those are the most common ways of using a flint and steel to ignite a charred material. Alright, so now take a look at Charcloth. You might notice that there's a frayed edge. See, now if you go along the grain, see that? See that edge right there? That's the best place to spark, because it has more surface area. It's more fibrous, which is very important when you're talking about tinder. You know, that's why we bust up Tinder bundles and things like that, to make it more fibrous. See if I can put my thumb behind it for you to see. And there it is right there. So you want to use that. So one way of doing it on the stone would be to put that end towards your edge. See if I can do this right, like that. So I would strike the stone and try to ignite it right there. Now another way is a folding technique, where you would take your cloth, see if I can get this where you can see what I'm doing, and you would fold it and make like a wall out of your charcloth. Like this. See how tall it is now? So now my cloth isn't just laying on the stone. The sparks can fly over it sometimes when that happens. So if you make like a wall out of it, and I just did like an accordion effect where I kind of folded it on itself a few times so it kind of stood up, and I'm pinching the back of my thumb to hold it there. So now it's a taller, larger target. I just put it right up to the edge. It's a taller target to catch the spot. Okay, so that's what I went with here. So I'm put it on my top, you can see better. Nice tall piece of charcloth towards the edge. Let's see if we can get it to ignite. It's real windy. I'm going to wait a second here. Okay. Okay, there we go. See that? Burning real good right there. So I'm going to take that and put that in my bundle. Just putting that right in my bundle. there you have it. Okay, I'm just stomp this up. Okay, so that's good now. So the reason why I turned this way when I was doing it, I held it above my mouth. So heat rises, right? So I don't want to be poking down over it, because then what I have to do is I have to blow on the ember. So if I'm blowing on the ember, that means that the ember is facing me. Well, if it's facing me, then the heat's going right out of the bundle and not through all the fibers at the bottom. So you want to tilt it this way. So now when I'm blowing here, it has to go through all of it. Now I turned because the wind seemed to be coming from here. I want that on my back to help push the heat through the bundle and to give it extra oxygen. That's better oxygen than I think it's 16% of your breath, your exhale is actually oxygen. It's like 16%, somewhere around there. So the air, obviously, in the wind is a much higher percentage of oxygen than my breath. So I want to let the wind help me if it can. Alright? Okay, so basically, that's some of the concepts on using a flint and steel. You know, you just use a stone with a hardness of 6.5 around there and up. And you want to use high carbon steel, whether it be from a knife or whether it be from a steel on a flint and steel kit. These are called fire steels, by the way. The fire steels that people usually call fire steels, like the company Light My Fire Steel, is actually a ferro rod. Okay, so I just want to go over one more thing, and that is I have a book I want to show you guys real quick. So hang tight. Okay, so this book is the National Audubon Society Field Guide to North American Rocks and Minerals. It's a pretty cool book. This is a picture of pyrite, and so is this. So as you can see, it prefers to be in these cubes. The piece I have looks a lot like that, but doesn't have as much iron in it. That has a lot of, looks like iron in it, which causes it to be discolored like that. My piece, right here, is much cleaner. Okay, so let's take a look at it. It says pyrite. It's on page 374. Okay, so as you can see, color and luster often tarnished with a brown film of iron, yep. Sometimes it's iridescent, metallic. And that's what mine is. Mine's metallic. Okay, hardness. 6 to 6.5. Okay, and that can throw sparks. So, you know, that's a definite right there. If you have 6 to 6.5, you can start to throw sparks off of steel, especially when it's a little softer, like high carbon steel. Pyrite. Pyre, it's fire in Greek. That's pretty cool. Okay, so, you know, I think it's kind of a cool name, because it's kind of like firestone, right? Pyrite. It's pretty neat, because it does create fire with sparks off of steel, so that is pretty cool. Okay, let's talk about my old friend quartz. Okay, I've done scouting vids on quartz. I'm a big fan of quartz. It's barely nappable. You can make points, but it's very hard. You usually have to heat treat it. But it does make sparks, it does make tools, and it's incredibly common. Once you find it, it's pretty much just loaded in that area. So I'm a big fan of quartz. Hardness is 7. That's why it throws such good sparks, because that's a good solid spark throwing number right there. So check this book out, it's pretty awesome. Alright, it's been Mitch, Native Survival. I appreciate your views, your comments, and your support. Thanks for joining me today, working with the Flint and Steel Kit. See you in the next one. Take care.